The bed section is the first one we'll build out together, and it's the perfect place to begin because it teaches you the foundational skills and concepts you'll use across every other section of your proposal. From measuring and calculating materials to assigning labor, adding equipment, estimating time, and writing clear client communication, Beds covers it all. If you can master this one, you'll feel confident handling everything else from lawn installation and hardscapes to irrigation, lighting, and fire features. So let's just dig in. As we said earlier in elevation, each major element of your design is represented as a section. A section is any standalone part of your project that can be measured, scheduled, priced, and optionally grouped, such as a patio, bed, walkway, fire pit, or lawn. In this walkthrough, we're focusing on the beds using a real-world example I showed you in an earlier video from a landscape design by my own landscape company, Legacy Landscapes. As we stated in the previous video, the design we're working from is split into two areas. The blue boundary right here represents the patio area the customer originally called me about. The red boundary right here represents the garden area, which is optional and will be presented as an upgrade. We're going to start by measuring and building out the beds in the patio area. At the top of this template, you'll enter your measurements, and at the bottom, you'll configure materials, labor, equipment, and subcontractors. Remember, this layout stays consistent across most of the landscape sections, but we're using beds here as the main example. Now, if you're the kind of contractor who hits the job site with marking paint and a measuring wheel, this part's for you. In our example design, we're going to measure the bed areas labeled with an A using the wheel here, which represents the measuring wheel you would use on a job site. In the design, you will see where this part of the bed is widest, then this area gets a little bit narrower, and then in these three areas, it gets really narrow. That's what the subsections here are for. We'll break these into three subsections. Subsection 1 is for the wide area, subsection 2 is for the mid-width area, and subsection 3 is for the really narrow parts. Now let's start with subsection 1. Double-click on the 0 next to length, and we're going to measure it. And it's 12 feet, so type in 12. And then to move to width, you just have to hit the Enter key. And we'll take that measurement, which is 8. So type in 8 feet, and then hit Enter again. Now, before we move on, I want you to see that it's already totaled the square footage for subsection 1 right here. And it will continue to do that for each subsection that we fill out and finally give us a total square footage of all the subsections up here in the right-hand corner. Now your cursor should be in soil depth. This is how deep in inches your soil is going to be if you're bringing some in. And if you're not adding soil, just leave it at 0. In this case, we want to do some minor mounting, so we'll enter 6 inches. Click Enter and you will move to subsection 2. Let's measure that one. So that's going to be 10 feet of length. And the average width is about 5 feet. So type in 5. Now you can see that the soil depth is copied from the first entry and carried all the way across. If one of your subsection needs more soil or less, you can just double click on that section and put however many inches of soil you want, and it will change it for that subsection only. Now click Enter again, and it will take you to subsection 3. So we're going to take that measurement. And it's about 55 feet long. And it's 1.5 feet wide. Again, soil is already carried over, so we are done with the measuring wheel part. Now that measuring table is in most of the other templates that come with the software. Now, as you can see, for you guys that go out to these job sites and maybe paint some lines and take all your measurements, you can actually do all of that bid right there on site. This is going to help you in so many ways, but one in particular is forgetfulness. Man, I remember back when I was doing my bidding this way, I would take all the measurements, go back to the office to put the bid together, only to realize I forgot a couple of measurements. As you can see, that's not going to happen anymore. This is also going to help you get the bids done quicker, and with our integrated sales psychology and strategies baked in, you'll be able to sell even more projects. Now, for those of you using a Moser device, Google Earth, or design software that already gives you your square footage, you can skip the length and width entirely and plug your number directly into the square feet column. For instance, I had my architect give us a square footage total for the rest of the beds, and that comes to 243 square feet. So we'll double click on the square feet button in the section 4 and enter 243. You can see how much faster this will actually go if you have the square footage already given to you. Now that all your measurements for beds are in, we're going to choose what materials we want to include in this bid. Now you've got check boxes for soil, weed fabric, and rock or mulch. In our example, we're going to install rock in the bed, so we'll leave all 3 boxes checked. If you uncheck something like weed fabric, you'll notice the corresponding material line disappears below. That's by design. The software only shows what you're actually using. Now, enter your mulch depth in inches. The software comes with the default of 4 inches, which is what we're going to use. If you want to use more or less, just click in the box and type however many inches you want. Now let's go over how to add materials from your product catalog. We're going to start with soil, and this part's important. You'll see labels next to each product line on the left side of the screen. If it says soil, then make sure you're actually entering a topsoil product, not bark, not mulch, just soil. This is because we ask you for the soil depth and mulch depth separately. So if you mix those up, like putting mulch where soil belongs, your material calculations are going to be off. Here's a quick tip. If there's a label next to the line, that usually means there's a calculation happening behind the scenes. So be sure to match the product to the label. If there's no label, it's just a placeholder and no math is being done. Also, when you manually add another material, which we'll go over in a little bit, by clicking the Add Material button right up here, it won't have a label. That's because it's an open line where you can enter any product you want at that time. Just understand, any material you add below the calculated ones will need to be calculated manually by you. Getting this right keeps your numbers clean, so your bids, your orders, and your installs stay accurate. All right, now let's get started. Click the Connect Item button next to the soil to open your product catalog. If you know the product name, just type it in the search bar, but if you're not sure or you've got several versions of the same material, you can filter by category. Click the down arrow next to the All category. Then choose the correct one. In this case, we're looking under bulk materials. If you've organized your catalog with subcategories, which we did, click the correct subcategory. So in our case, that would be soil. You can also go one step further and select a group if you used one. We did not, so we will now see all of our topsoils. Select the one you want. In our case, it's sandy loam, screened, and hit Save. Now that product is connected to the soil line in your proposal. As long as you've followed the software setup in order, your product catalog should already have all the info filled out except for labor, which we'll cover in the next video. So now you should see the unit of measurement, which in our case is cubic yard, the quantity calculated from your square footage and depth, your unit cost, and your total cost. And again, if the field labor is blank, that's totally fine. We're going to get to that soon. Now, repeat the same process for weed fabric and mulch. Click Connect Item for weed fabric. And this time we'll do a product search. So start by typing the name. And even if you misspell it, the software will usually figure it out. And that's because Elevation has a built-in fuzzy search that can recognize close matches, which is pretty cool. And once your product shows up, click it, hit Save, and it's in. Now, let's do mulch. Click Connect Item, and we're going to run another search. In our neck of the woods, we use basalt rock in our beds, so we're going to search for basalt. You search for whatever type of rock or mulch you use in your area. Under basalt, you'll see 1.5 inch basalt chip. That's what we're using in this bid. So we'll click on that, hit Save, and again, it's added. You should now see everything populated: unit types, quantities, unit cost, total cost. Now, let's say your client calls and insists they don't want basalt chip, they want 1.5 inch lava rock in their beds. Click the edit icon next to the product you want to change. In this case, it's basalt chip. Now that opens up a side window where you can not only change your item, but also make several adjustments to the existing item. You can change the product name. You can adjust install minutes or units per install time. This is really cool, and we'll cover it in depth more in the labor video. Change the unit of measurement, like switching from yard to truckload if you get a bulk deal, and of course, update the unit cost. Now, here's an important note. Any change you make here is only for this proposal unless you click the Update Catalog button. So if you're doing a one-off job out of town and the cost of basalt's $125, you can update that here without affecting your master catalog price, which is pretty slick. But for now, let's switch the product from basalt chip to 1.5-inch lava rock. So just click the Change item at the bottom of the screen. You'll now see a message at the top that says Replace 1.5-inch basalt chip. And we'll do a search for lava, and as you can see, we only have a line item for 3/4-inch lava, not 1.5 inches. Now that's okay. You don't have to leave the proposal to add an item to your catalog. Just click on Add New Material at the bottom of the screen. Now from here, enter the product name. So we're going to type in 1.5-inch lava rock. You want to assign a category, which for us is bulk material. And then we're going to give it a subcategory, which is going to be decorative rock. And you can assign a group if you're using them. We don't for bulk materials, so we're going to leave that blank. You'll need to pick a unit type like yard, ton, roll, etc. Ours is going to be cubic yard. And you want to enter a unit price. Honestly, I have no idea how much it costs, so we're just going to put in $90 a yard. Leave the install time and install unit as is for now. We'll go over it later in the labor video. And you can write a quick description if you want so your team knows how and when to use this material. We don't have to. Then click Save, and now that item is in your product catalog. Now you will see that our product still hasn't shown up here, and that's because it's in the catalog, but you have to research for it to show up. So retype in lava in the search bar at the top, and now you will see that it shows up. So select 1.5-inch lava rock, hit save, and just like that, you've swapped it out. Simple, clean, and super flexible. All right, one last thing before we wrap up this video, and that's how to add an extra material to the section. Let's say your client calls and says they really want to add decorative boulders to the beds. You could add that right here in the bed section by clicking the Add Material button on the right-hand side. If you already have boulders in your catalog, just run a quick search, and we do. If you don't, pause the video and refer back to the part where we showed you how to add a new material. Once you find boulders, click on it. Then you'll want to enter the quantity. And in this case, we're going to add 7 boulders to the beds. And click Save. And just like that, you've added another item to the section. Now it's in your catalog and connected to your proposal. That wraps up adding materials and working with measurements. In the next video, we'll walk you through adding labor. And right after that, we'll show you how to turn this into template and add equipment and subcontractors so you don't have to repeat this setup every time. Well, those are both critical, so don't skip them, and we'll see you in the next video.